with the early summer light. Curtains sway gently by the window, and you're sleeping. Tender wind dancing on my skin makes me stay in bed a little longer to hear you breathing. Long for those quiet days when the hours drift away. Petals fall on the window pane as the clouds above float away. Evening comes with a fading summer light. Twilight air drifting through the window, and you're sleeping.
You may notice that I am in a different location today. I came down to my studio in the basement and I made myself some hot tea. This is peach mango because I want to sit down and have a talk about all of the artistic, creative endeavors I'm currently enjoying this spring. I have said before that my main hobby and the hobby that brings me consistent joy is knitting. However, I am a creator at heart and I love to do all kinds of things. I'm constantly wanting to learn new crafts and artistic endeavors, and I just feel so much joy when I do those things and they just fill my heart. So I came down here today because it's not going to be a regular sit and knit and chat. I'm probably going to do some vlog stuff in here as well and show you little snippets of my days and the things that I have been doing. And I also want to talk to you, I want to show you what's going on down here. I didn't have a dedicated making space until my two older boys moved out. And now it's just Lily, my daughter, is here with us. And so we have this empty bedroom space that I converted into my art room. I don't even have all of my art supplies down here. This is mostly just my overflow stuff that I don't use very often. I have all of my yarn upstairs in our bedroom, which is where I normally film. I like to keep it there because I see it every day. I walk past it multiple times. I love it. It inspires me. It just keeps me motivated and it just makes me smile, to be honest, to see all that beautiful yarn. I also have a large hutch type situation in our dining area. and that is where I keep all of my painting supplies and paper supplies. So I usually do my watercolor painting at our kitchen table, or if it's nice out, I'll go out onto our back deck and I will paint out there. So I don't do a lot down here. I think with painting, I find it challenging because of the lack of natural light. Although I will say it is really bright in here right now. I actually invested in some studio lighting for my podcast a month and a half ago. So that was actually made possible by you all who are so generous and faithfully watch and put up with the ads that I know that YouTube runs on my episodes, as well as I even have some very faithful Ko-Fi donators who donate to the channel every month, and then I use that to dump back into the channel, and then also to sponsor giveaways and stuff when I do a giveaway, or I give away patterns, or when I have to mail things out for the podcast. So I do appreciate you all for that, and it enabled me to buy a decent set. And I think I have 2 lighting kits, softbox lighting kits, and it only cost me, I think, around $75. So if there's any other podcasters who are watching this, I will try to remember to link this lighting kit down below in case you want to invest in something like that. But I will say this has made it much nicer and more like I'm looking at myself in the viewfinder of the camera, and I actually look fairly well lit. So that's fantastic. As a knitting podcaster, I often feel the pressure to knit. Like I have to, in my brain, it's like, Amber, you have to produce because you need to have something to talk about, which makes sense. I'm a knitting podcast, so I want to be able to share my knitting with you. But I do also realize, and I hope that you all realize too, that I am a very multifaceted person with many different interests, and I like to explore various things. And when I take the time to do that, though, it takes away from my knitting time. Spring is very much a time that I feel highly motivated to do all the other artistic endeavors that I enjoy, such as painting. That's probably my main, other than knitting, that's probably my main creative hobby. But I also enjoy writing, and I enjoy gardening and preserving my herbs and flowers that I grow. And so I approach a lot of what I do in my life in a creative, artistic way. I think I've just been wired that way from birth. I also grew up with my grandparents who were both, they owned a farmhouse, and my grandpa was a farmer. He had worked on the railroad for years, and then he was in an accident and he had an injury. So him and his wife brought their children here to where actually I live now. I live on old farm property, and they bought a farm, and he became a farmer, but he was also a very creative man who enjoyed painting. So I have very fond memories of sitting in their living room in their farmhouse before I would catch the afternoon kindergarten bus, and my grandpa and I would watch Bob Ross, and I would sketch along on a piece of paper with a pencil, and he would talk to me about the art that Bob Ross was painting. I also have a painting that him and I did together, and I have memories of him. I think I was 5. I think he was 65. It's on the painting. I will put some B-roll in here of that painting. But he was letting me help him with the clouds. And I remember him saying, no, you need, because I think in my kindergarten brain and like coordination, I was just like going with the paintbrush in circles and stuff. And he was trying to show me like how to move my hand to get the clouds. And so and then my grandmother, his wife, who I was very close to and was like a second mother to me, she was a knitter and crocheter, and she is who taught me how to crochet. She also tried to teach me how to knit, but that did not stick. I had to teach myself that in my early 30s. And she was also a baker, and they both gardened. I remember my grandpa growing a lot of roses, and I feel like in there, you would walk into their farmhouse in the summer and you would smell dill, the herb dill, because he would grow a lot of it and then lay it out on their old, I don't even know what kind of stove it was, an oven, but it was like this old thing that had a herb drying place on the side. And so their house would smell like dill. And dill is still my favorite herb. I grow massive quantities of it every year so that I can dry it and have it to use throughout the winter months. And then my other grandparents were really big into gardening. And so they actually had a nursery for a while, a greenhouse where they would grow and sell plants and flowers. And I remember spending time in the greenhouse helping to water the plants. So I have been around creative things for basically my entire life. And so I feel like they are pretty much embedded into me. And I feel very fulfilled when I'm able to be creative and to make things with my hands. So I have just gone on and on, haven't I? So let's get to what I was going to show you, what I brought you down here. And speaking of gardening, I did bring a little basket of chamomile that I'm drying because I was so blessed and had almost an entire square garden bed reseed with beautiful chamomile. This is German chamomile. I have never had it reseed like it did this year. And I was so impressed with this chamomile because it was a very hard winter here in Western Pennsylvania. We got a lot of snow and we got a lot of frigid temps. And this chamomile just kept pushing through. So I picked some the other day and I have it drying. I have a set of 3 of these baskets that I thrifted, and they are perfect for drying herbs in. I do a lot of dehydrating in my dehydrator, but when I do chamomile, I just lay it out on a basket or on something that has some airflow through it, and I let it dry. So I've got this drying, and there is so much more that needs to be picked. And I have some from last year still. That is still very good. Like it is it's very, very strongly scented still. So that is drying, or that is already dried. And this is what I had. I just stuck it in a mason jar. I did just recently finish getting my garden planted. So it is Thursday, May 21st, and we had 90-degree weather this past Sunday and Monday. So we went from last week being relatively cold to being very, very hot and humid. And so on those hot and humid days, I went out every morning and every evening and I worked on getting my garden planted. I had started plants from seed earlier. I think that was on March 10th, which I've learned that was just a bit too early to start my tomatoes. So I keep a journal for my gardening. I already marked that down to maybe wait a week before I start tomatoes. They got a bit leggy, but I was able to plant them in a certain way that I think will actually be beneficial for them. But I put in my dahlias. I store my dahlias over the winter. I have to do that here where I live. And I store them in pine shavings, and they do really well in that. Like I get a big Rubbermaid bin, and then I put layers of pine shaving with the dahlias. I did mark them all with their names using packing tape and paper and tried to waterproof the packing tape. It did not work. It was a little bit too moist in there, so I have no idea what is what. That all kind of dissolved, which was crazy because it was packing tape, but it mostly dissolved. And so I was like, oh well, we're just going to throw them all in the ground and we're just going to enjoy their beauty. And I'm not going to worry about what their official names are for those. I wanted to keep track of that in case I ever wanted to buy more of my favorites in the future, but I'm not going to stress myself out about that. So I got my dahlias planted. I planted straw flowers and some marigolds, which they were like a white marigold. I don't typically like marigolds, but these were really pretty. I put in some really beautiful red flowered nasturtium. The feverfew is doing really great. I'm trying to think of what all is even out there. I planted, as far as veggies go, I planted tomatoes, several different kinds, lots of peppers. I did zucchini and a couple of different kinds of cucumbers. I want to show you guys a little bit. I've been doing so much watercolor painting because I do really enjoy that so much. especially in the spring. I don't know what it is about the spring, but in the spring I just want to watercolor. I actually have been using a palette from Rosa Gallery, and it's their botanical watercolor palette, and these are the colors that are in this palette. You can see I don't clean my palette off hardly ever because I like to just add to the colors. I sat down last night. Yesterday I was so tired. It was a cold, rainy day, and I was just so tired, but then I had coffee. I had coffee at like 2:30 in the afternoon, and then I did a workout, and that kind of woke me up. So I was painting at 9 p.m. last night, and I will put in some photos of some video of my new little paintings, but I had so much fun painting these blueberries, and then I did some strawberries, and then I did a miniature landscape as well. My paint my paint leaked up through here. I usually lay my little square down on a piece of like chipboard, I think it's called, and then I tape it down with washi tape, but I was reusing the washi tape, so I try to get like 2 uses out of the washi tape, like 2 pictures painted, and I did not have it pressed down enough, and I kind of went right through, but that's okay. Anyway, I'm really channeling the summer fruit vibe with these, and I had so much fun painting these. This was the first time I ever painted blueberries or strawberries. I don't know why. I think I usually do landscape painting, and that was fun to do that. And I want to show you for my painting, I have multiple palettes and sketchbooks and stuff like that. But right now what I'm doing is the 100 Tiny Treasures challenge with Leslie Straz, I think her name is, and I've talked about this before on here. But basically what I do is I just made up this little basket. It has my supplies in it that I use for this challenge. I cut 100 pieces of 2 by 2 paper. That's the size I decided I was going to do, and I've been working down through this. So my stack is getting smaller, which is lovely. And I bought this hole punch off of Amazon, which I can link this down below. I've had multiple people ask me about this, so that I can punch off the holes, because when I cut this, I just cut it using my paper cutter. So it's squared, but I like to have the pretty little rounded corners on my paper. And so I don't paint every day. Like last night I sat down and I whipped out 4, but that was, I think it had been 6 days since I had last painted. I don't know, I could be wrong about that. I didn't bring the rest of my paintings downstairs here, but I kind of just like think, all right, I'm just gonna do 1, and then I end up doing multiple. I like this exercise, this tiny exercise, tiny paintings, because it's not overwhelming. I can sit down and I can do a painting in a relatively quick amount of time, and I'm still learning, like, and learning the like watercolor technique and mixing. I'm learning so much doing this, and it's like not overwhelming, which is so nice and feels so much more doable. And then I literally just use these 2 paintbrushes. So these are Aqua Elite paintbrushes. They're Princeton brand, and it's the size round 0 and round 6. And this is all I'm using right now. I do have some other brushes, but I'm not like so much of a watercolor painter that I have a bunch of brushes. That's not me. That's me with knitting. I have lots of knitting tools, but when it comes to painting, I'm very minimal. And then I do have a travel brush that I use when I travel. Like if I take my paints out, I always carry a little spray bottle so that I can spritz my palette to like give it the initial moisture so it can start activating the colors. And then I have these markers. These are Winsor & Newton, which are like thin line markers. And I think I got these on Amazon, so I can link these down below as well. But they're 3 different sizes. That way I can do, like, I don't always outline. For instance, like this is not outlined at all. This one is not outlined at all. But the strawberries, I went in with my Winsor & Newton fine line marker, and I did some detailed work and outlining. And then I also did the same in this one with putting like the fence. I didn't do the whole fence line with the marker, but I did part of it. And then I also did like some gravelly looking stuff on the road. So I just kind of mess around. I'd like to get more into mixed media painting. I have lots of painting and I have pastels and oils, and I want to actually get more into acrylic painting. I have some gouache that Ian bought me a couple of Christmases ago that I haven't even used yet, which is completely ridiculous. So yeah, but I'm not a watercolor like expert at all. I just mess around like I do with most things in my life that I learn how to do. And this is a little ceramic pot that I used to put my water in, which this was a gift from a friend. She had made this, and yeah, she gave this to me. So and then I have my little pieces of paper. It's very simple. It's very simple. I like to keep things, I love to jump into things, but I also love when I can keep them simple too, because then I feel like they're more doable. Like I'm more likely to do something when I don't overcomplicate it. When I overcomplicate things, I usually spend way more time planning and prepping and buying and then less time doing. So for me, I find that it's good for me to keep things simple and I'm more likely to accomplish things. As far as my knitting goes, I brought my knitting bag down and I will show you what I have here. Okay, so I am making a sample knit of the Pressed Flowers kerchief, which is by Amy Christoffers. I always say Amy Christoffers, and then a viewer told me it's Amy Christoffers, or I say Amy Christoffers, and a viewer said that it's Amy Christoffers, and I've heard people say both things. So if I've been mispronouncing her name, which is highly possible, I apologize. Names are hard because, you know, my mother's maiden name, nobody knows how to pronounce that right. It's Ukrainian and it is crazy. And to look at it, you would never pronounce it the way it's pronounced. So I just know that's how it can be with names. But this is where I'm at now on this. I'm using, as I said, this is a sample knit for Jody of Flower Hill Fleeces. This is in her farm yarn, her Shetland DK. These are the two colors I'm making. I don't know their names because I don't even think the pink one had a tag when she gave it to me, but it's basically a really bright neon pink, as you can see. And then this is like a black color. This yarn is from her sheep that she raises on her farm here in Western Pennsylvania. And I am to the point now where I'm starting the decreases. So I'm making this bigger than what the pattern called for because I'm trying to figure out how big someone could make this using 2 skeins of her yarn. And this is a sample knit, so I am doing this for, I'm enjoying it. I love working with her yarn. It's very enjoyable yarn to work with. But I'm also doing this to give Jody information and then for her to use this as a sample when she goes to festivals and stuff like that and sells her yarn. So like I said, I'm at the point and now I'm going to start decreasing. So I will start decreasing on this end, and this has been very fun. I think I knit this only one other time, and I used Pearl Soho Good Wool, and it's just this is a fun knit, and I'm not even the biggest mosaic fan, but I think that this is one of those situations where the yarn that we choose to use can really impact the project experience because this yarn is so bouncy and springy. I love it. And also coming off the tail end of using, and I'm still currently actually using some plant-based fiber, but it's so nice to be back to knitting with a bouncier yarn. Because I did that one, the Tools to Tank with the 100% cotton yarn, the drop saffron, and I'm not a huge fan of 100% cotton. So yeah, this has been just a joy to work on. So I'm working on that. That's mostly what I've been focused on this week in my knitting time because she's going to be at the Fayette County Fiber Festival. I think it's the second weekend in June, second Saturday. Is that maybe the 13th? Anyway, she wants this as a sample there to take her yarn and sell it. Basically, like kind of like a kit type of a situation. And this is a free pattern, so you wouldn't even have to buy the pattern. You just buy her beautiful yarn and make yourself a beautiful bandana. She also has this beautiful, I'm saying beautiful a lot. She has this really pretty lavender purple color that would look absolutely stunning knit up in this with the black. The lavender and the black. Keep that in mind. If you go to Fayette, the Fayette County Fiber Festival, and she has the lavender there, I would assume she's going to, because I feel like that's a color that I always see at her mill when I'm there. But I feel like that also would be, if you're not, this is bold because it's this bright neon pink, which is so much fun. And that's another reason I've been having so much fun knitting this, because it's such fun color. But if this is not your thing, if you don't like the really bold, bright colors, I think that soft lavender with the black would also just be absolutely stunning. So that is where I'm at on that. And then I have my, what's this called? My Prospect Tee by Tori U, or Tori Knits NYC. This is being knit out of Pearl Soho linen quill in the rhubarb pink color. Look how much I have done. It probably doesn't look like I've done much since my last podcast, which was, I guess, only a week ago. And as I said, I have been working on this a lot, but I have also worked on this. What I'm going to do, basically, I think, because I tried this on, and I was like, oh boy, I still have a lot to go on this, but I need to block it. I'm going to knit a little bit further, and then I'm going to put the project on barber cord, and I'm going to soak it, and I'm going to give it a good block and see how much it grows lengthwise, because I don't want this to be too long. I am very particular. I'm not very particular. I have a very clear vision in my mind of the length that I want this to be, and so I want to block this yarn out and see how it blocks out with this particular texture, because this is a textured tee. Let me get closer so you can see. It has some purl ridges and then some other texture to it. But yeah, I am really enjoying this project. I love when I enjoy all my knitting projects. I have a lot of whips that I'm not talking about that are on my shelf upstairs, and they're probably going to remain there until the fall because they are projects that I don't really feel like working on. And I have multiple pairs of socks that I haven't worked on. It's so funny because I used to be such a prolific sock knitter, and now I think they're one of my least favorite things to knit. I love wearing them, and they make wonderful gifts for people who you really love. But I just don't enjoy knitting them anymore, which is sad. It's probably a phase. I did a little poll last week on my episode, and I was like, guys, what shirt should I make with this drop spell in is this dark jeans blue? I think it's the dark. There's a light and there's a dark, and now I can't remember, but it's color 13. I really love this blue so much. I showed the Anchors Tee by Petite Knit, the Clover Tee by Lena Holm Samso, and the Vilma Top by Gregoria Fibers. And when I filmed that episode, I was really leaning towards the Vilma Top because it was something that I don't already have in my wardrobe. However, as I was editing that video and watching back the clip and thinking about it and looking at this yarn, I was like, I love that Vilma Top, but I really think that this yarn needs to be a Clover Tee. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to buy the Clover Tee pattern and I'm going to make that. I think I will just get more use out of it than the Vilma Top. I really do want to knit the Vilma Top, but I think I will probably end up knitting that. If I knit it, I will knit it in a wool yarn and not this summer. that will be a project for when fall time comes around, because it is beautiful. But I don't know, I just see myself wearing this one more. And I love, like I said, I'm a process knitter, but I'm more of a product knitter. I want what I make to be something I'm gonna want to wear a lot. And I'm not an overly complicated person when it comes to what I wear. So I like basics and classics. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. And I say that so hesitatingly because it's like, what if I change my mind? Because I always change my mind. I always find a new pattern and I'm like, oh, I wanna knit that one instead. Like even since I did that drop spell episode, I'm already seeing other patterns. Some of them's coming from you guys because you'll say, hey, have you seen this pattern? Check this one out. I knitted in drop spell or the Sandus Garnlina and it is a perfect match for this yarn. And then I go look at it and I'm like, oh, I like that one too. Anyway, so that's what I'm planning on making with this yarn. So thank you for voting. And I'm gonna, honestly, most viewers said, make the clover tee. Those that said to make the Vilma top, most of the people who said that was because they were like, you just lit up when you were talking about it. And then hardly anybody thought I should make an anchors because I already have 2 of them. So fair enough. I probably should have mentioned the sweater that I'm wearing today is not hand knit. It is so funny because so many people in my real life know that I'm a knitter and that I knit my own clothes. And there are a couple of sweaters that when I wear them, I know people are going to ask me if they were hand knit. And this is one of them. This was not a hand knit sweater. It looks like I could have hand knit it, but it's not. It's just a really pretty sweater that I actually got for way less than what I would have paid if I had bought yarn to make it myself. Okay, I want to talk about my cross stitch that I'm going to be starting. And I also just want to say a little bit about some bigger scale painting. I think it was the beginning of May, I decided to paint the window frame around my kitchen window. That was a decision that I had been thinking about, and it had been marinating in my mind since last summer. I went last summer and got paint chips at Sherwin-Williams and I taped them up to that wooden, to the window frame. And my friend was over the one time, I'm like, which colors should I pick? And then I had basically 3 different blue colors. I ended up going back and buying a very small paint container of Dutch tile blue. Blue is my favorite color. I love blues and greens. So I bought this and then I chickened out and I was like, oh, if I paint this blue and I don't like it, then I'm gonna have to paint it back, which is not a big deal, right? It's not a big deal. But I just kind of like, no, I'm not gonna do it. Lost the motivation, put the paint can down in my basement where we store our paint and forgot about it until the beginning of the month. And then I was like, I'm doing it. I had a lot of energy the one day and I just thought, I'm diving into it. I'm going to paint this window frame this blue color. And if I don't like it, I can paint it back white. It's not that big of a deal. It's not a big project. I don't need to feel overwhelmed about this. So I ended up painting and I love it. The first day I was like, do I love this? I think I love it. But then there were other times I'm like, I don't like it. I want the white back. I don't like the blue. But now I like it because it just adds a little bit of character. But when I had that little thing of paint, I didn't use hardly any to paint that window frame. So then I was at the thrift store and I found this cute little recipe box. It was just stained. It wasn't polyurethane or anything. It was stained, and it's not that I didn't like just the natural wood look, because I love a mixture of painted wood and natural wood. I have both in my house. I'm not a purist to either extreme. I think that they both are beautiful, and I mix mine. I'm very eclectic in how I decorate my house and what I have. I basically just get and use what I like. And so I liked the plain stained look, but it was very, I could have sanded it, but I didn't want to sand it. It was rough. And so when I wiped it down after bringing it home, like the fibers were sticking to the wood because it was it was rough. And I just was like, I'm gonna paint this. I'm gonna paint it, and then I'm going to paint on the surface of it. So I painted it the Dutch tile blue, and my plan is to put some sort of folk art painting right here. I'm gonna paint something here with folk art, maybe something on the sides, maybe something on the back. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. This is how I am. I often will do projects in steps. Sometimes I just whip them all out at one time, but other things I like to let like marinate and think about, what do I really want to do? What do I really want to put on this? So I have a Pinterest board where I have a bunch of like folk art, whimsical painting ideas saved. So I'm probably just going to get on there someday when the bug bites and do a little bit of painting on here and make this look super cute. I do not need a recipe box. I have a recipe box. So I will probably use this to store some sort of craft supply, to be determined yet. I did have, after I painted this, I had bought some packages of flower seeds that I had been storing in here. They fit perfectly, so it would work for that, but I'll probably just keep it here in my little craft studio and store some sort of craft supply in this. I can't get my iPad to work, so I'm just gonna pull this up on my phone and show you this again. Although I think, wait, I can just put it on the screen. Sometimes I forget I can do that, which is funny because I do that all the time with different things. Oh, but I should open my phone up anyway, because then I can tell you the name of this little cross stitch pattern and the designer of it. So let me do that. Okay, so it's just called the Strawberry Cross Stitch pattern, and it is a pattern by Soft Bloom Patterns. It is still on sale for $2.39, and I downloaded it and printed it off a couple of days ago. And I have my Aida cloth here that I am going to use. Actually, no, I don't. I just realized, so I'm looking at this and I had thought maybe it would be fun to do on a dark blue background, but I forgot that the flowers in this were blue. So I'm going to end up doing it. I have white. These were the ones I pulled out. I have this black background and then this really light icy blue and then this darker blue. And I'm just going to do this right on like an off-white cloth, which I have. I didn't bring it out because I forgot. I forgot the flowers are blue. But this is so cute. I am really excited to do this. Cross stitch and embroidery are really fun. I like them both. It seems to take a little longer for me to get started with the cross stitch because my brain, I feel like there's more for my brain to wrap around because I have to pay attention to the squares. Like when you're cross stitching, you're stitching across basically a square. And so I feel like it requires just a little bit more thought, especially when you first get started with a new cross stitch pattern. But I know once I get started on this, I'm gonna have so much fun, and we're gonna be camping. We have a camping trip coming up soon. And I feel like this will be a really good little project to take along and to work on next to the campfire. So I just figured this out. I'm going to use an off-white Aida cloth. Last thing I want to talk about is a little t-shirt hem project that I've been putting off since last summer as well. So I have this t-shirt that I bought off of my friend who has an online boutique. She sells like natural fiber clothing and products, and I will link her website down below. Anyway, it says sow kindness, reap grace, and then on the back it has all these packets of seeds. Now, my problem with t-shirts is that they're often long and I don't like where they hit me. And then they feel like they bulk up around my waist, and then I don't know what to do with all that extra fabric, and I feel like it makes me look thicker in my midsection. And I just don't really like to tuck things in because I don't really have a waist, because I have a very short torso, and my rib cage almost, I think it's like, I stick my hand down there, my pelvic bone and my rib cage aren't even an inch from each other. So I have a very short torso. I don't have a waist. I don't tuck things in because it doesn't look right on me. I don't feel comfortable. Then I got this idea to crop it. And then I was like, but I don't know if I want to crop it because do I want to cut a t-shirt I just spent 30 some dollars on? Well, then I got a stain on it. I don't think you can, I don't know. Can you see that there? It's like a stain. And I tried. I have some tricks for getting stains out. I couldn't get this one out. I have no idea what it is. It's kind of like a yellowish color. And I was like, okay, we're definitely going to crop. We're going to hem this. We're going to hem this. Now, I found a video last summer by Sydney Graham, who she's a pattern designer. She sews a lot. She just recently started knitting and crocheting within I think the last 9 months, maybe a year. Anyway, she's really fun to watch on YouTube, and I usually watch every video that she puts out. She has a tutorial for hemming your t-shirts using the hem that's already there so that you don't have to worry about that. And my friend used her tutorial, said it was successful and not hard to follow. My only concern is that I have those seed packets on the back. And so I need to make sure, I think that the stain, I think it's going to work. I think I'm going to be able to cut the stain out without losing the seed packets. I don't want to lose the seed packets, and it might look a little bit weird with the hem so close to the seed packets. I don't know. But right now I'm not wearing this at all because it has a stain on it. And so what do I have to lose, right? So I'm going to use her tutorial, and I have already watched it a couple times, but that was last year I watched it. So I need to rewatch it, and then I need to give it a shot and see what I can do for this t-shirt. And I will link that down below in case any of you have a t-shirt that you want to crop. Okay, so I'm back because I decided I needed to come and show you guys how this turned out. So as you can see in the back, I literally am right up against the bottom of the seed packets. In fact, it might even look like I sewed up some of the seed packet, but I didn't. It's right on the line. But this fits me exactly like I want it to. I will definitely wear this t-shirt now way more often. And I will also be doing this with my other t-shirts that are long. I think one of the things that happened that was good about this is that this t-shirt material is 100% cotton. It has no spandex in it. So I didn't have to do anything with my presser foot. I just used the one that's always on there. I have very limited sewing knowledge, and when it comes to changing stuff, even the settings on my sewing machine, which I have a Genome, I have very limited knowledge. So if I was going to do this to a t-shirt that had spandex in it and was stretchier, I feel like possibly it would have been a little bit more challenging, and maybe I would have needed to change the presser foot on my sewing machine, which would have been a whole nother thing for me to figure out. But yeah, it's not perfect. It's definitely not perfect, but I feel like it's good enough, and I love this cut so much more than the full t-shirt length. So I would say this is a success. Okay, so that is it for the vlog, sit down, talk, whatever this hybrid video is today. I hope that you enjoyed it. I don't know. I just know I cannot share my personal knitting every week. If I'm gonna post weekly, which I really enjoy doing, I can't share my personal knitting every week because I don't knit enough, and you guys would be so bored and you would be like, we're not watching her anymore. And honestly, this is just part of who I am. I like to do lots of different things. There's that term multi-craftual, am I pronouncing that right? And that's totally me. That is totally me. And so I know that I'm not the only one. I know that there are a lot of people out there. I feel like if you're a creative person, then you probably are creative in multiple areas. And I don't want to hem myself in to just, I will always be a knitter. Like, I don't plan on ever not knitting, but I do a lot of other things too. And I don't know. I thought it might be fun to share them with you guys. So let me know what you're working on in the comment section down below. What are your other hobbies if you're a knitter or crocheter? Because I know most of the people who watch this are one of those two things or both. What other creative hobbies do you partake in? And do you find that you're more creative in those other hobbies during certain times of the year? Like, I'm much more likely to be delving into other crafts in the spring and summer. And then I just kind of hibernate into my piles of yarn in the winter because I'm not a winter girl. Yeah, but leave those comments down below and let me know. And then if you enjoyed this video also, I would ask if you could give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already and you enjoyed yourself here today. Thank you for watching me. I need to get moving and I need to go clean my parents' pool. We just opened their pool this past weekend and it was a literal swamp. So I'm gonna wrap this up, but I wanna thank you all so much for joining me today. And I will see you all next time. Enjoy your knitting and have a wonderful day. Goodbye.